Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Red Pill Podcast 190. I hope you're all having an amazing weekend out there, even though I'm sure you are with the way this crypto market has been trading over the past week. What a wild week in the Matrix it's been. We've had not only Bitcoin price discovery, but we've seen, as of yesterday, XRP closing its first daily candle above $1 in 3 years. So really important podcast today. We're going to be recapping everything that we've been prepared for on this specific full moon date that just passed a couple days ago. I'm going to provide as much value as I possibly can in today's podcast, but you've been getting a lot of updates throughout the week, probably the most updates I've ever shared between red pills. So I hope you've been studying those. I hope you've been taking notes. And I definitely hope that you watched the last Red Pill podcast because that was powerful. I also had a new video that I put out a couple days ago as well, packed with gnosis. So we are really prepared, and we were prepared for everything that's gone down over the past week. So we're going to try to get straight into things today, but just wanted to say I am very appreciative and grateful for every single one of you. I think it's very important right now that we all stay calm and composed. I understand that there's a lot of excitement going on, and I hope the preparedness has helped you navigate everything up until this moment. But if you're feeling confused, you're feeling any bits of anxiety or any of that stuff, just remember we are a family here at the Waters Above Wolfpack. So please utilize our Discord server to chat with like-minded, conscious individuals, and don't feel afraid or shame or guilt or any of that stuff. Just be vulnerable and transparent with wherever you are at in your crypto journey. And I'm just saying this so that I can prevent my DMs and emails being clogged up with frequently asked questions that I'm typically either answering throughout these podcasts, or it's stuff that our community has heard me say many times throughout the months and perhaps even years. So if you're new here, I just really would appreciate if you have any general questions, go ahead and ask it in our Discord server. Try to prevent reaching out to me with DMs on stuff that I've likely answered before. I'd really appreciate it, as this is the busiest time in my life. I've been working 14 to 16 hour days without any breaks, and this is the first time that I've had a moment to spend time with family in God knows how long when. So I appreciate your understanding. I'm going to do my best to update you all as much as possible. And in those updates, I'm answering most of those frequently asked questions. So just please utilize our community over in Discord. And if you're new here and you've yet to get access to our Discord server, it's very easy. All you have to do is scroll down in this Patreon post until you see my profile picture and my name next to it. It's hyperlinked. Go ahead and click on my profile picture here in Patreon, and then you'll see a little prompt show up that says send message. Go ahead and click that, and you'll be able to direct message me here on Patreon. And you'll need to direct message me on Patreon only in order to get Discord server access. So please do not send me an email or comment below. That is not how it works. Just go ahead and send me a direct message here on Patreon with your Discord username, and I will reply back to you with a Discord server invite. I really appreciate you following those instructions. I'm sure you could only imagine I am getting hundreds of DMs and emails every single day. So I'm trying my best here, but it's been, it's a game of volume, and I don't have anybody working with me in this project with customer service. So I am doing all my support on my own. So just make sure you follow those instructions, get access to our Discord, chat with our community. That'd be very helpful. And it's important I say this now because the more and more exciting this market gets, the more and more busy I become. And I've been doing my best, again, to get the most thorough analysis and updates out as possible, but I just really appreciate that help right now. It's really, really important so that I could open up my time to continue to create this art for you all. Also, we're doing great with the altcoin voting system. We've had a lot of new people join our community over the past couple months. So if you're not aware of how to vote on the altcoins that we cover during these podcasts, just go ahead and write in the comments section below the name of the altcoin and the ticker symbol, and make sure it at least has about a year or more of data in a TradingView chart. And whoever gets the most votes on those coins are the projects that we will cover in the next podcast. So let's get straight into this. I have all that information shared in the description below, but these are the things that I've been getting hit with often, and I just want to clear up all that confusion. And also to any community members out there that are in our Patreon, if you see people writing questions or anything like this and I'm answering it, I would really appreciate if you could help just answer those questions for me. It'd really be great right now. I'm sorry about this plane that's flying over. Now let's get into today's podcast. So we made it through the full moon in Taurus on a very important date of November 15th, which was also the day that Saturn stationed direct after a 20-week-long constrictive phase that Bitcoin deals with every year. And one of the most important things that I taught in regards to the Saturn retrograde phase was the final 3 weeks of Saturn retrograde, which I will be pulling up now. The final 3 weeks of Saturn retrograde are typically very bullish. And those final 3 weeks started on October 25th, right there. And I shared this information at least 2 months before that date. I was preparing our community for that shift in energy. And now that we've officially completed those final 3 weeks of Saturn retrograde, we can see that Bitcoin has actually gained 40% during those 3 weeks. And with that move, it's also woken up altcoins, notably XRP. We've seen what happened with Dogecoin. We've seen what's happened with a lot of even the top caps. So that analysis was very, very powerful to have been aware of in advance. And it's actually from a YouTube video that I put out from a couple months ago, back on September 12th. I had this video titled Friday the 13th Script Exposed. And then around the 31-minute mark in that video, I give an overall summary of my analysis for that whole video, kind of wrapping it all up regarding the exact date of November 15th. And this was back when Bitcoin was trading at 58K. And I say, quote, after the pair of eclipses that we'll have this month and next month, referencing the September 17th and September 18th eclipses, as you can see right here. The key word here is I say after the pair of eclipses, the lunar eclipses. I said after that is when I see the bullish energy should come back to the crypto market. Around the 42nd week of the year should be the pivot. So when we go to the week numbers, you'll see that was October 14th through October 20th. That was the week of our final eclipse of the year. So in less words, we should see the bullish energy return back to the crypto market after October 17th. Again, let's check in the charts. This is right here. We have October 17th. That was your lunar eclipse on that white dot. So keep this in mind. Then during this video, I went on to say, once Saturn goes direct on November 15th, we should already be breaking out of this bull flag, which is the one that's right here, this bull flag. We should be breaking out of this bull flag. And the breakout target is just under 100K. And here we are today. We had November 15th a couple days ago, and we've seen a daily close for Bitcoin at 91K with a push up to 93K just a couple days before November 15th. And November 15th is actually our highest daily close ever to date. And during this run up, we did get a push slightly above 93K, literally only 7% away from hitting 100K. And just like I said in that video that was shared over 2 months ago, that breakout target is just under 100K, and the key date is November 15th and the last day of Saturn retrograde when Saturn stations direct again. So this played out precisely how we anticipated to the exact date. And please know, this isn't to say that I told you so, not one bit. It's to simply teach you what actually runs this crypto market, and that's gematria, numerology, and astrology. And this is the decoding system that I've been sharing with you all since the beginning of this cycle. It's how I was able to determine we would pivot bullish right around here. This bullish pivot into April 2023, because that was the start of our solar cycle, and Bitcoin tends to pivot off the lows of the bear market right between the final lunar eclipse of the lunar cycle, which by the way was right here. It was the bottom of our bear market for Bitcoin. I said that we tend to pivot off the lows of our bear market between the final lunar eclipse of the lunar cycle moving into the first solar eclipse of the solar cycle. I could actually show you this with this chart right here. It's very clean. I like this one. I'll remove the full moons. I'll extend it out and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So that was your lunar eclipse and that was the start of your solar cycle. So buying that lunar eclipse is powerful, but only for Bitcoin. Altcoins can stay down for a very, very long time, and that's the play here. So anyways, getting back to this, we've been aware of the power of this solar cycle, and now that we've seen what's happened with Bitcoin recently, I mean, this is undeniable stuff. So we've watched what's happened with the first solar eclipse of our solar cycle and also with the last solar eclipse of our solar cycle. After watching it happen this market cycle, that means we can determine the timing of the bottom for Bitcoin. And now that we've had this breakout into price discovery after our final solar eclipse of the solar cycle, we can clearly prove that as well, with tons of evidence, as I've been providing all year. So if you want to be prepared for how the rest of this bull run is going to go, and to also be prepared for when the next bear market is going to start, that's covered thoroughly in my crypto decoding blueprint, which is part of this decoding mastermind. And since I have that Black Friday sale running now, make sure if you're interested in this that you use your Patreon member Black Friday promo code if you're interested in investing in one of these courses, since that promo code here for our mastermind community is an even bigger discount than using the typical promo code Black Friday. You'd rather use the promo code 25MMBF, and that's also written in the description below as well. And you can use this promo code multiple times if you'd like to package together specific courses that you're interested in. And then I also have a couple packages already available. These are the two most requested packages that I get. But for the people that wanted just like a blueprint package and you wanted to just get the decoding blueprint and the exit strategy blueprint, you can apply that Black Friday promo code for both of them. That promo code you could use as many times as you'd like. And all the courses on my website are a one-time payment for lifetime access. I'm really grateful and I appreciate all of your support. So getting back to these charts, it's important we revisit the recent updates that I've been sharing in our Discord mentioning the run up to 94K. Let me quickly get back to that chart. So we've also gotten pretty close to that level. So I've talked about this 94K level a bunch of times because it is the 1618 fib level, or the golden ratio of our recent 8-month horizontal trading range. So we're going to get back to the Saturn retrograde chart right here. You can see that fib was pulled from the previous all-time high of March 2024 down to the swing low of August 2024. And when I double click on this fib, I have it set with this checked on. It says fib levels based on log scale. So I'm looking at a logarithmic chart and that setting is turned on and it puts the 1618 at 94,300. So we did make it up to 93.3K. That's within 1% of the exact target. Incredibly accurate. But I want to show you something real quick, and it has to do with the first couple weeks of Saturn stationing direct. So let me close this out. And of course, we must consider as the backbone of our expectations the fact that Bitcoin has always moved up at least 100% on the initial surge into price discovery in every cycle. And this happens in just 3 to 4 weeks. So if you watched my last YouTube video that I put out, you know we explored that thoroughly. And if this pattern repeats, we'd have a 130K to 150K Bitcoin between November 27th, and December 4th. So write that down. And again, this is not my opinion. This is simply taking what Bitcoin tends to do every cycle and applying it to what we're watching transpire today. So this is not Waters Above's opinion, okay? I want to be very, very clear on that. I'm not saying we will 100% go to 130K by that date time frame, but we have been pulling off that move since the initial bull run cycle for Bitcoin. That's very powerful stuff to have that data and to see a clear cycle that's repeated over and over and over again. Okay. And also it's timed perfectly with after the final solar eclipse of our solar cycle. It's very powerful stuff. So I am expecting it, but at the end of the day, we're in a very nascent asset class. Crypto is very new, and Bitcoin, although it does have the longest chart history, it's still only a little over a decade. As opposed to the S&P, we have a century of chart history that we can analyze. And as a professional technical analyst and professional trader, I have to be very clear with you all that when we're looking at 10 years or 12 or 13 years of data, that's not a whole lot. That'd be like judging a human being based on 13 years of life. A teenager has not really met any expectations other than puberty, right? So you look at this very similarly. But when we're looking at something like the Dow Jones, we have a ton of data. When we're looking at an individual stock like Ford Motor, we have a ton of data, right? So we need to be very clear here. Although we've been really good at predicting where this market will go based on big pivots and energetic switches, it does not mean that this stuff is 100% laser precision. I'm just getting that out of the way right now because a lot of people remove the context of stuff. You know, we've just had this happen with the XRP thing where people are saying, why didn't XRP hit $1 last year at this time of year? And it's like, well, there's context. The context is Bitcoin price discovery. If Bitcoin goes into price discovery, that is when XRP goes above $1. That's been the message since 2022. So, one moment. Got to take a quick sip of water. So I want to now show you something that I think is very, very powerful. And it has to do with Saturn stationing direct and the effect it has on Bitcoin. Now, you're all well aware that the final 3 weeks of Saturn retrograde are bullish. We talked about that months before it happened. We talked about it a little bit earlier. And now that we've moved through this Saturn retrograde phase and Saturn is effectively direct, we also need to point out something that's pretty powerful. But let's look back at a couple iterations of Saturn retrograde to see how Bitcoin trades once Saturn stations direct again. And let's just start with the prior iteration where you have back into early November of 2023, we see Bitcoin essentially just grinded through the final week and for about 2 weeks or so after this moment. And that actually makes sense because it takes Saturn, I believe, 3 full weeks to fully go direct again. Very slow in that way, but I don't want to make this like a deep astrology lesson. I want to keep things very simple for you guys and have utility. All right. So needless to say, we have about 18 days after the Saturn retrograde phase. We have a pivot in energy, and I want to bring up the moon phases and show you that right there on the full moon, that was when the pivot occurred. So keep that in mind, since we did just technically push through the full moon a couple days ago. Now we're going to go all the way back to August 2017, right here. So we have a Saturn retrograde phase ending in late August 2017. Bitcoin was already actually in price discovery during this Saturn retrograde, by the way. And you could see the final 3 weeks of Saturn retrograde were incredibly bullish. And then once Saturn stationed direct, like in our last example, we just kind of grinded to the upside for about a week before experiencing a serious correction of about 40%. But keep in mind, with this example here, Bitcoin was already in price discovery at the time. As you can see, the all-time highs are here. And if I draw a line across the screen, we're talking about here. Bitcoin was already up over 300% before this correction that we were just pointing out. It ended up being a healthy correction, actually. It was a retest of the 21-week exponential moving average, which I'll cover later. So I just want to point that out because that's very important. Again, context, guys. When you're hearing people say things, no matter if it's me or anyone else, there's context, all right? So yes, I'm pointing out a 40% correction after Saturn retrograde, but it's like, well, we were already up 350% at the time, right? So it's a much different placement, right? It's like comparing movement in the desert versus movement in at the top of Mount Everest versus movement in the ocean. It's gonna have very different energy to it, right? Now let's get back to this regarding this correction over here too. This deeper correction into September 15th of 2017. It was right after, literally right after. Let me show you. The fourth and final solar eclipse of our solar cycle. I think that's incredibly important to point out. It's right here. So that's very important because once we had that correction, Bitcoin never went lower than that for the rest of that cycle until obviously the bear market. But my point is that this was the moment we were just looking at post Saturn retrograde. We were already up 300% into price discovery. We were due for a correction. And if you look at the amount of days between that solar eclipse and the corrective date, it's around 24 to 25 days. So I want to apply that to this recent fourth solar eclipse of our solar cycle. Oh, no, excuse me. I want to apply that to the end of the Mercury retrograde phase, right? 1 second. Yeah, the 15th. So that puts us right there into around December 9th. It's kind of important because I've been talking a lot about that particular week, the 49th week of the year, which we'll get into in a moment. So yeah, this is pretty fascinating if you look at it from this perspective, but if you also wanted to look at it from the 24 days after the fourth and final solar eclipse, this would be around October 26th, and we still technically did not go lower since. And this was like the very beginning of what I was calling the final 3 weeks of Saturn retrograde, just the day before the October 25th date. And that was the lowest Bitcoin traded so far since this breakout, still to this day, meaning it's perfectly synchronized. Then let's go to 2020 Saturn retrograde, because this was right before the last bull run, right? I think that's very important to consider this one. It's very powerful. Also, by the way, during this one, we left a CME gap behind, a CME gap that is still not filled to this day. So recently we just had a CME gap that was not filled, well, a pretty noticeable one. And there's only been a couple times where they've been left unfilled. And this was one of the moments. So I'm just saying, like, we don't need to fill the gaps, and I'll cover that in a moment. But I want to talk about this Saturn retrograde right here, which you can see a couple days after we had a full moon. It seems to be that there's a pattern here where after the full moon, we don't go lower for the rest of the cycle. But what we also see is the pattern is we grind really low volatility after Saturn goes direct. So it took us some time before a dramatic impulse. It took about 23 days. Now, if we were to add 23 days to where we are today, if that ended up being the case, which I can't say for sure, but puts us around end of December. No, I'm sorry. The second or third week of December would be when it should really make sense to continue up to the next phase. But we have this initial surge that we've been talking about in the past couple of videos. So I don't want to confuse anyone. I know I've added in a couple other elements here, but I really just wanted to point out a couple things, all right? First is that we tend to just grind around this moment, the final days of Saturn retrograde, and then like for about a week or two after. Take a note of that, if anything has been confusing thus far. We just kind of grind right now. And what that means is if we grind with green candle closes to the upside, altcoins are going to look amazing. But if we kind of just grind a little bit with a couple of % closes to the downside, we can see major corrections on altcoins as Bitcoin steals more dominance. So I don't feel that the rise in Bitcoin dominance is over yet. I think we still have a little bit more to go. And perhaps I'll touch on that a little bit later if it's necessary. So What I also find interesting is that whatever the first full moon after Saturn retrograde is, that's the lowest Bitcoin seems to go. Of course, we'd have to consider other factors such as eclipses like we saw in 2017, but we are past eclipse season right now, and we don't have another eclipse until March 2025. And since the full moon was literally on the day that Saturn went direct, this makes things tricky because my intuition says this won't count. And that also means that the next full moon on December 15th is more important for the specific analysis, which means it could sort of turn out like 2017, but that also means we would go higher first. All right. I hope this is making sense to you. So that lines up perfectly with what I've been talking about in regards to the date of December 3rd and the 49th week of the year. This is something I talked about a lot in my last video, by the way. So we have the 49th week of the year between December 2nd and December 8th. And I do believe that we'll have Bitcoin's initial surge into price discovery ending before that week. That's what it would make the most sense. I'm not entirely sure if we can hold out throughout all of the next 30 days or so without going higher. If we were to push down lower, sure, that might be good just to fill that CME gap. But now we're just getting theoretical, okay? We have the data that shows us that typically we are in a up phase right now. So let's break this all down to make it easier to digest. Essentially, Bitcoin has topped before most new moons this year and has corrected immediately after the new moons. It's a pattern that's continued to play out. I've talked about it in the last couple podcasts. And to dial that pattern in even more, it seems Bitcoin likes to pivot before the 7th day of the month. This same pattern is played out this month actually too. You can see right here on November 4th, we had our correction after the new moon and we pivoted before the 7th day of the month. Over here, we had the same effect on October 2nd. Over here, we had the same September 6th. Over here, we had the same August 5th. Over here, we had the same July 5th. You see, guys, it's not my opinion. It's what Bitcoin's been doing. So that would mean I want you to keep your eye on anything before December 7th. And this is why I'm keeping the December 1st new moon on my mind for my analysis moving into the final month of the year, the month of our black moon. And also, please watch my last Red Pill podcast if you didn't. That decodes the 49th week of the year thoroughly, tied to the code of the 49ers and how that has been a negative energy all year, especially if it has any symbolism of the San Francisco 49ers. And coincidentally, if you look at the jacket that Mike Tyson wore to the fight against Jake Paul, you'd see the 49ers aesthetic. It's like a 49ers football varsity jacket. It has that same kind of feel to it. So perhaps it's a coincidence, but I don't think so. The truth is in the symbolism, and he lost that fight, even though that was obviously scripted. So let's recap this. Regarding the 49 code. We have the 49ers lost the Super Bowl in 2020, the year Kamala Harris became the 49th vice president of the USA. And here she was this year running for president, and her name in Gematria, let me just quickly show you this. Kamala Harris equals 49 by the code. In the same year, the 49ers lost the Super Bowl again against the same team they lost against in 2020. That was the year she became the 49th vice president. Mike Tyson also equals 49 in a reverse cipher. And I don't want to make this about decoding that fight because it was clearly just a scripted event. It was a big money grab across the board, but I did want to point out the symbolism to hopefully show you guys the way I perceive this scripted reality so that you can make your decodes more powerful. And this is something I really get deep into inside of my decoding mastermind course in the beginning. It's called Perception Mastery. So that comes with 3 full modules so far. It's Perception Mastery, the Duality Masterclass, and the Crypto Decoding Blueprint that I brought up a little bit earlier. And then I'll be adding a new module to it very soon called the Trinity Masterclass. So in Perception Mastery, I talk a lot about this type of stuff. Being able to point out that and like see the symbolism and why it all kind of adds up and makes those connections. But I did talk a little bit about this in a Red Pill podcast, not in a Red Pill podcast, in a what was it, a live stream. It would be great if one of you can go back and clip the moment where I talked about Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. It was the first time I ever addressed it, and I am pretty certain that I pointed out some negative connections to Mike Tyson and brought up the positives for Jake Paul, but I did not decode that fight. I just gave some little, tips of what I was seeing in a live stream. Anyways, the fact that the 49th week of the year aligns with our new moon at the start of December, and we have this negative energy with the 49 code, as well as the pattern showing corrections after most new moons during this year, it's clear to me that we should have confidence that we're likely to not have any larger pullbacks until that week. And since Bitcoin has a pattern of increasing 100% in 3 to 4 weeks into price discovery, that puts us around 130K to 150K between November 27th and December 4th. And it's only November 17th today, and Bitcoin is still trading below 100K. So we have about an additional 50% above us in order to reach the 130 to 150K zone. Also, the 5-day window around a full moon technically ends this Wednesday, the 20th of November. But we could very well have bottomed already on this date, the day before the full moon, the 14th, with that micro pivot low at 87,300. That's something that's also been very typical throughout this year. So I'm actually optimistic that Bitcoin can be breaking out to 100K before the end of this month without any substantial large corrections. That seems to be the way that this is all posturing. And considering that the largest correction Bitcoin had during this entire solar cycle was from here to here, it was about 33%. If we were to fill this CME gap sooner, it would only be about an 18% move to the downside for spot Bitcoin. So, and I'm talking from the high that we hit, and we hit 94K, right? Yeah, we did hit 94K on the CME chart, which is the reverse of the number 49. So you have as above, so below, because we hit 49 down here and then we hit 94. It's fucking crazy, man. Guys, a lot of the decodes that I do, it's not just to be like a look, we called it thing. I'm just having fun with the code. I've become quite playful to it all, because really all that matters is what actions do you take? Knowing how to decode is one thing. Knowing how to be actionable is another. Knowing how to create art is another, right? So we always got to check in with the ego throughout all of this. We can't be doing this to say, I told you so, but the fact that it comes to life by the code this way is unbelievable and pretty amazing. So if we were to correct sooner, a 17% correction is nothing. Bitcoin has had multiple 20% corrections throughout this solar cycle. So of course that would be a healthy and actually kind of best for us to just rip the Band-Aid off and get it out of the way. But we can't disregard the power of the initial surge into price discovery for Bitcoin. And as I said in my last video, the CME gaps do not need to fill. We had one back in March 2023 and never filled. And we have this one over here that I was talking about before in September 2020. It's kind of funny that actually the few times these gaps did not fill were at moments kind of like this, where there was an exoteric event and the market maker used that to inject FOMO into the market, and the rest is history. So for instance, back here we had C19 nonsense. Over here we had the banking crisis, retail banking crisis between, Silvergate, Silicon Valley Bank on the March 13th, Friday the 13th, not Friday the 13th, excuse me. It was the March 13th correction. Anywho, that created a gap, but that was also tied to an event. And then here we have this whole thing that went down because of the selection. So anyways, I do think it's part of their game, but I'm just saying that if we are to get a correction immediately into next week, then we shouldn't be shocked. But I am leaning more towards us running up for the rest of this month into the very end of this month, and no later than the first couple days of December. And then depending on how high we go, we can see a more dramatic correction then, as we've seen with most new moons this year. And that aligns perfectly with our number 49 code and the 49th week of this year. And this also aligns with how the 2020 cycle went that I was showing you a little bit earlier. when Bitcoin broke into price discovery right around the Thanksgiving holiday for the USA. Let me show you on the charts. It's right over here. So this move is pretty wild because we broke out into November 25th and then experienced a correction. This was the day before Thanksgiving. And then we had a correction throughout the weekend and then recovered into the following week. Well, Thanksgiving this year is late. It's on November 28th. So that also aligns perfectly with everything I just shared about the cycle we're in now. Perhaps we move up all the way until the 27th, the day before Thanksgiving, just like we did in 2020, the start of our last cycle. How perfect would that be? And the weekend that's after Thanksgiving will be our new moon. We have it starting technically on Saturday, November 30th, through Sunday, December 1st, when it will be 100% lunation, into Monday, December 2nd, which will start the 49th week of the year. And then we have December 3rd, which is the date that I decoded in my last podcast, being 28 days after that selection, landing on the day that leaves 28 days left in our year, which is what I decoded regarding the movie Donnie Darko and the number 28 written on his arm, symbolic of 28 days, and also included the connection of the movie 28 Days Later. So definitely check out that last podcast if you haven't already, because it's probably the most mind-blowing decode I've ever released. Especially if something does happen on the 3rd of December. So since that week of December 2nd through 8th is our 49th week of the year, I'm really not feeling so positive about this week, but I do believe we should repeat the pattern of bottoming before the 7th day of that month, which lands on a Saturday. And I do believe there was another pattern regarding this where it always happened during weekdays. So I would say that we really want to look to no later than the 6th for the completion of that correction. And there could be some room for us to slide a little further, and I'll let you know why in a moment. But that is the pattern. And of course, this is all depending on how the rest of this breakout phase goes, because the higher Bitcoin breaks out, the larger and more dramatic the correction is. That's just how the initial surge into price discovery goes for Bitcoin. We even watched in the last cycle that topped on the initial surge on January 8th of 2021, right at the new year. We got about a 30% correction to follow that. So I do suspect that if we can continue up into 130, 150K, we're going to see a nasty correction, guys. But that's why you don't want to be playing fancy right now, because there's too much volatility and there's too many eyes on the crypto market. Even too many eyes on the people that are behind the crypto market, which we have a lot more famous people involved in this bull run than we did in the last one. In the last one, we only had Elon and Michael Saylor. This time around, it's like everyone and their mother has something to say about crypto, right? But where were they during the end of 2022? Where were they at the beginning of 2023? They were silent, and now they're all coming out of the woodwork. You know what I'm saying? So this is all just a script, and you got to kind of keep that noise on the side. But getting back to this, I'm bringing this up because if we'll see any moves at this time, it'll be kind of how you'll see altcoins up 20% one day and then they're down 10% the next. You'll see an altcoin shoot up 30% in a single day and then get slammed down in a 4-hour candle. You know, this effectively happened with XRP yesterday with a surge up to $1.26. Which, by the way, what did I say in all of my analysis leading up to that breakout? I said that once XRP can clear 72 cents on a macro candle close, we will shortly after see $1.30 to $1.40. Well, I would say that $1.26 is pretty crazy accuracy, you know? And this is just getting started, right? But I'm letting you know, the macro candle close is today. It's tonight. So if we can hold that dollar, that'd be a big milestone for XRP. I'll cover that in a moment. But this recent move that we had of the run up to $1.26 and then the 20% correction that followed down to $1 and then bouncing into like the middle of that trading range, by the way, that's completely normal price action. I know it sounds crazy, but that's very normal for altcoins. So let's wrap this up. We have the key dates to look out for, with a very interesting week ahead being the first week that Saturn is stationing direct. And typically during that week, we see Bitcoin sort of just grind up to the upside. And that Saturn stationing direct is also the same day of our recent supermoon, the full moon in Taurus. Taurus is the bull. That was November 15th. I decoded this in the Black Moon Decoded. I said bullish in every single data point leading up to this day. So please rewatch that, because there's probably some wisdom hidden in there that you could apply to your analysis as well. And since the stock market has actually rallied higher after this recent election, I want to get to this. This is very important. The fact that we pushed up after the election and it made a new higher high and new all-time highs. This is really similar to 1964. That was the year of the wood dragon. Let me turn off these moons and get to 1964 S&P chart, the year of the wood dragon. And you'll see we actually pushed up after the election into Friday, November 20th, and then we corrected. And I would assume Thanksgiving was after this, by the way. So we had a Thanksgiving correction in this cycle as well, in alignment with what I told you a little bit earlier. And then we corrected into November 15th, which is literally the full moon this year. As you can see, it's the full moon for December in our Black Moon month. And then we pivoted and went higher. So after that pivot on December 15th, back in 1964, the stock market pushed up higher into the new moon of February 1st, which was Chinese New Year. Just like I've been teaching regarding our Bitcoin analysis for January 29th, 2025, coming soon. And as you can see, in 1965, we pushed all the way up until May 1965. By the way, this was the year of the wood snake. We are moving into the year of the wood snake in 2025. And then we moved up into the first eclipse of the year before a major correction after the first eclipse of the year, just like I've been preparing you all for regarding March of 2025. The first eclipse of 2025. So perhaps we repeat the same pattern in the short term as well, where we move up into Thanksgiving, like I brought up a little bit ago, and then we have a decent correction into December. And now that I've shared that, please know that I am not telling you to wait until December, because waiting for a pullback is not part of my investment thesis anymore. It hasn't been since the summer of this year. And if you check out my buys, any recent investments I've made, well, that supports that. So I don't know where all this like wanting pullbacks thing is coming from, but those days are behind us, guys. I know many of you have been involved in crypto for some time. Perhaps some of you were just kind of keeping up with it, but didn't want to take action. And perhaps some of you were just starting to get into it now, especially since what's transpired since the US election a couple of weeks ago. I get it. But the reason I am not advising to wait is because if we do repeat the pattern where Bitcoin typically goes up in every past cycle, and we push up into 130 to 150K by the end of this month, that means altcoins will push up higher as well. Then any corrections that happen might be at a higher price than what we're seeing today. So you'll just be falling for whatever the same thing that all new investors fall for. That's what I call greed to the downside. You'll try catching the falling knife, and it's just a vicious cycle. I've watched it happen to tens of thousands of investors, and I don't want you going through that stress right now, especially that with leverage trading. It's too much, all right? So the best practice is to just DCA into any and all dips between now and the end of the year. That's not financial advice. It's just what I'd be doing if I was making these last minute investments. And remember, everyone is in a different position here. Some of you have been holding crypto since 2016 or even earlier. Some of you got in just last week. So if you're trying to follow anyone's exact plays, it won't work, because all that matters is your exact financial situation and risk tolerance. And these are the investing words of wisdom that need to be said at this exact moment, because few want to say it. but I'm a real one, and I want you to become a self-reliant investor. And the only way that'll actually happen is if you put in the work to actually learn these charts and develop your own exit strategy and investment thesis, and stop waiting for the day that never comes. So if you're urging to ask me, when will XRP drop to 50 cents again? My reply is, where did you learn that? Because the odds are you heard that from someone that wasn't even showing you a chart. So when you hear a statement like this, a couple things happen at first. First off, you become nervous because you'll think about selling now to buy back in at 50 cents, right? Well, maybe you do sell. Then what happens if we do not come back to 50 cents? Instead, we push up to $2. Will you keep waiting for 50 cents? See, this will make you spiral into a place where you take one step forward and then two steps backwards, and you'll be nervous and anxious every single day of the final phase of this bull run, and you'll have zero joy or gratitude for the profits you are or could be experiencing. You don't want to be anxious during a phase where you could be chilling and enjoying the ride. Remember, what makes this community so unique is the fact that we've been calm throughout this chaos and grateful every step of the way. And this brings us rewards that are so much greater than money could ever provide. The profits are just icing on the cake. Honestly, trust me. I know everyone wants to make money, but what is the money worth if you're anxious or depressed or worried and in a consistent state of fear week in and week out during making that money? In fight or flight mode constantly. That's not life. That's just an existence. So don't let that happen to you. Stay focused on what matters most. Keep your emotions on the sidelines and avoid the distractions of everyone's opinions right now. Because unless someone else's opinions can be backed with data, facts, or truth, then it's just a distraction that's taking you away from continuing to refine your own investment thesis. Please consider this stuff. All right. So I keep getting asked the same questions lately. Should I invest now? What should I do? XRP is going to 50 cents because this influencer told me. I mean, but where is that in your reality? Is that how you feel? Or is that what you're being influenced into feeling? See, everything that I've covered today throughout this podcast up to this very moment is me pointing out patterns, showing you proof and data, making the connections. It's not just being pulled out of thin air. I'm very clear and delineate whenever it's waters above's opinion. All right. And I suggest that you go out there and explore everyone's truth. I am not trying to say that I have the only truth. I don't even believe I have the truth. I believe only you have the truth within you. But I know naturally you're going to check in with many analysts right now, and that's going to kind of mess you up. All right. You kind of need to learn the skills and do the work right now. So that way, when something goes wrong, you only can blame yourself and look in the mirror and say, oh, I should have done this, or I could do this better next time. And I think right now we're stepping into that moment that reminds me so much of the beginning of the last bull run, or the beginning of the final phase of the last bull run right here. I got asked the same questions that I was just being asked the last week. Guys, I've been through this before, all right? And I'm trying to help. And I know the way that helps you the most is just disengaging from the emotions right now and sticking to what is actually happening here. There's going to be a lot of distractions, all right? There's going to be a lot of scams coming up over the next couple months. Protect yourself. If anything sounds too good to be true, it is. If anything seems too easy, it is, all right? Right now is not the time to drop the ball. All right. I know this is a little long-winded, but this needs to be said. It absolutely does. Now let's get into this analysis. Let's wrap up the analysis on Bitcoin and then keep it moving. So we have this 1618 level. We've almost hit that. Let's check in with the 2-week closure because we have a bi-week close coming up tonight, and we are about to close a 30% bi-weekly candle. Now let's shut off everything and just look at the candles and look at the one time we had a bi-weekly closure into price discovery. We have past cycle, and then we have this candle right here. It was on December 7th, price discovery candle, and then we went up following that for an additional 85% over the following 2 weeks. The next bi-weekly candle was even crazier, but of course that was during Christmas, Saturnalia, all that stuff. So Looking pretty wild. Also, during the month of November, we have a 40% move on average. So if we were to consider such, a 40% move off of the monthly open would be putting us around 98K. And again, what did I say before? That's not my opinion. That's just what Bitcoin does. All right, Bitcoin seasonality going all the way back to August 2010, 40%. Right? So we have a couple of things pointing towards us moving higher than where we are trading at as I film this. Let's look at the biweekly candle that sent us into price discovery in the last cycle. Cycle before that, I mean. Crazy 68% candle. And then we did break out a little bit higher from that candle, but not too much before seeing a little bit of a correction. We moved up an additional 30%. I mean, fuck, if we did that this time around, that'd be crazy. But if you're looking at it from a biweekly perspective, we actually continued up an additional 124% before having a red biweekly candle. Let's look at it over here. When we had this biweekly close, we moved up an additional 200% before having our first red biweekly candle. So could this be the start of a multi-week rally? Yes, it could and when I'm talking about bi-weekly candles, by the way. So after we close this one, we won't have another one until the start of December. All right. So here we had 1, 2, 3, 4 total after price discovery, including price discovery. Here we had even more, 2, 3, 4, 5. And right now we've only had a 1, right? 2, 3. Yeah, meaning we could literally push up on bi-weeklies all the way until fucking February. All right, I'm saying monthlies, by the way. My bad. Excuse me. They're one mark across, so it's easy to get confused. This is completely freestyle, by the way. I'm just kind of adding in some extra credit for you guys because I think this stuff is interesting. The fact that we don't get this moment too often, right? So there's very little prep you could possibly have. This is a once in an every 4-year opportunity. And we're in price discovery. So there is no ceiling. We busted through it. So this is an insane bi-weekly candle we have right now. Let's check in with the weekly and see what's going on, since we did have a break into new all-time highs on the last weekly close, and now we've pushed up another 10-11%. I just want to look at where our moving averages are. So on the weekly, we have our 8 and 55 in a bullish posture. I want to turn back on my 200s. There we are. And then I have my weekly EMAs, which are all in a bullish posture. We have the 1334 at the bottom above the 50. Okay, this is great. I don't want to take up too much of your time with this, but we have all of our EMAs and MAs in bullish posture right now. We even have the 8 back above the 13. That's really great to see. And we have the 13 EMA above 70K right now. If you look right there, you'll see it. Major. If we can have a weekly close above 90K for Bitcoin, which is just like a kiss away from here, that'd be nuts. Because not only have we cemented multiple daily closes above 90K, but we'd be closing a weekly and bi-weekly above 90K. We could do it easily. Let's look at the next 5. This is not right. Let me check. Whenever you see a candle, it looks like that's impossible. There we are. We don't have another 5-day closure until this upcoming Thursday. So I do think there's more room for continuation. Let's look at the Bollinger Bands. We've been closing 5 days above the topside Bollinger Band. We've been closing above the 3-day Bollinger Band as well. And the 2-day, we just closed into it, but that's not going to be complete until, tonight. Okay, so we're flattening out a little bit, but as we hold such a gap between where we're trading and the EMA band, this is very good. I don't want us to just keep going and going and going, even though Bitcoin is probably going to do it because these breakouts are insanely unhealthy from a technical perspective. But I don't even want to talk like that anymore because we've just been sideways for 8 months. I'm just speaking as a very neutral analyst right now. I don't want to let my desires, opinions, none of that shit get in the way. You have to just look at the charts for what they are. So closing above these 2-day, closing above the Bollinger Band on the 2 days, really, really good. All right, so we're holding a high above all of our moving averages on the daily. It's very, very good to see. We also had that bull flag target to about 99. So if we are to break and fulfill the bull flag, it would be incredibly elusive if we do not hit 100K first before a deeper correction. Because then remember, I talked about this in my recent update. All the people that think Bitcoin will never go to 100K will feel like geniuses. And then all the people that felt we would go much, much higher will feel like failures. And then you're just going to kind of liquidate both of those people on both sides. And then also you're going to destroy sentiment on both sides. And what does that sound like to the market maker? Sounds like chess while everyone else is playing checkers. So yeah, that would be hilarious if we only make it up to like 98K and then we have a correction down to like 78 and then we pop back up to, 150 and complete it real fast. That would not shock me, but that would absolutely destroy leverage traders and it would destroy sentiment and people would think it's all over, and you know how it goes. We dealt with it the same 4 years ago. Let me close all this out. Let's get to ETH. Is there anything else I really need to say about Bitcoin? Like we're up here, man. We're in price discovery. So, we have the 100K level is just psychological at this point. And then we have the gap below us, CME gap below us around 78K. Filling that is not weird. But yeah, we've left gaps behind before. Wow. You see how weak ETH can get? ETH has corrected already 12% off this push. And remember, guys, what did I tell you? I'm sure somebody could find a clip on multiple red pills. I said if Bitcoin breaks out into price discovery, we still won't be above $4,000 ETH. We'd probably only be about 3,000. Why? Because of Bitcoin dominance. So that's the case too. A lot of people think it's all just happening like this. Everything rises perfectly, and breaks all-time highs all at the same time. No, it's not how it works. Not at this moment, all right? If there's one thing I could say I'm pretty damn good of, it's determining how the price discovery moment will be and the mechanisms behind it. And now that we've watched this play out and Bitcoin's pushed all the way up to 93, that's given me a lot more confidence in past analysis that I've had. And now that we're seeing these sorts of secondary, tertiary analysis that I brought to the table regarding things with XRP and Ethereum, it's really increasing my confidence of being able to navigate these bull runs. So with us only being able to get to 3,400, and then simultaneously Bitcoin right now is trading at almost $90,000. Consider over here on November 7th, Bitcoin was at 69,000. Think about that. Bitcoin was 69,000 over here, whilst ETH is still down 35% from when Bitcoin was 69. And also now Bitcoin is at 90. So that would be like if Ethereum was almost $8,000. That'd be like equivocal of a move. Pretty crazy, right? The Bitcoin initial surge into price discovery is really the Bitcoin show. But you want to be positioned in altcoins, right? You want to be positioned in altcoins before alt season really starts going nuts. So at this point right now, we can go super simple with our TA. We have this rising higher lows, but we still have lower highs. And we're coiling up in this structure. We could get fancy and draw, patterns, but I believe we probably have at least a chart showing this rejection point. Let me try to quickly find it for you all. I have to have something showing this rejection. There it is. Boom. Let me turn off the moons. You'll see exactly. Look at that beauty. All right. So we had this play, push up, harsh rejection off of this trend line at the top of the 786 golden pocket. That's clean. Let me extend this out now. I'm going to extend it out to the trend line. And if we are to correct any more, a back test on this level at the 702 would be very healthy. We don't need to though, but I do anticipate us busting through this soon. So it would look like this if we do come down lower first, like that. And literally it might take all the way until fucking December to break all-time highs, like late December, a month from today, to see ETH break all-time highs. Why? Let's look at the last cycle. Look, you see right here, January 18th, that was all the way at January 29th when we started to break prior all-time highs for ETH, February of 2021. Well, remember, Bitcoin was at 63K on January 8th. All right. Bitcoin was already at much, much higher, 300% higher when ETH was just retesting prior all-time highs. So keep that in mind, guys. We might not see a new all-time high on Ethereum until potentially the end of December, around the end of the year. That would be a push up from here of about 56%. And then, yeah, I mean, I do suspect a 10K ETH for this cycle. It's like in an XRP. I know everyone wants to, everyone cares about XRP. We do too. Let's check back in. All right, we're looking at the 3-day chart on XRP. This is my favorite chart. I customized this one. And I feel confident I could remove this now because I'll leave it on. I'll leave it on for like the next YouTube video just to show people, like there's some power and patience here, because I had to keep reminding people, like, don't get impatient right now. We are literally mimicking the same phase 5 as we did back in 2016 moving into 2017. And it's paired up with the same exact moment, which is when Bitcoin entered price discovery. So Bitcoin entered price discovery. We saw the 73-cent closure on XRP, and then we immediately shot to almost $1.30. It's looking pretty good right now. But we do want to keep in mind this cycle up here more than this cycle, but just kind of show you that phase 3 is our next upside target. All right, because that's exactly the way it went back here. We hyperextended above it, but we came back and retested it. So when I zoom in, you're going to see exactly what the hell I'm talking about. Sure, we hyperextended high above it, but we had a fucking 60% correction. All right. So if we see, for whatever reason, XRP breaks straight to $2, maybe $3, then sure, we could have a 50% correction, especially if it mimics what it did back in 2017, where you have the prior all-time high, and this was a wick breaking into prior all-time highs. That would be massive, guys. That would be like a move above $3.30 for XRP in a fucking 3-day candle. All right. But then, I mean, I don't think we'll have a 60% correction. We could actually have a 50% correction. And let's analyze what that would be like. Now, granted, if we just retested all-time highs, what would that be like? A 50% correction would bring us down to $1.60. If we had a exact replica of the move, let's say it was $3.50, down 60%, we're at $1.40. So all this 50 cents talk, it's like, what are we talking? Like, I don't know. Just be careful, guys. Be very, very careful right now. You're going to start seeing people who never talked about XRP start talking about it all of a sudden. I would be very cautious. I'm not going to tell any of you who or what not to consume. That's on you. I'm not trying to control anyone here. I'm just saying that be very careful about what you're hearing right now. Please. Please, please, please do it for yourself. Do it for your soul. And if there's something that I say that you don't resonate with, awesome. You don't need to. I'm going to continue to do what's best for me. I hope you continue to do what's best for you. But all this 50 cents talk right now, it's like, I don't know if I'm buying that unless there's something massive that happens either independent to XRP or Bitcoin and just brings the whole market down. But I still think clear skies ahead until the end of the month, personally. And I could totally entertain if Bitcoin's to move up to 130,000, for sure we'll see a break above $2 for XRP. If we don't, that would be weird. We expected this move up to $1.30 off of that technical break of 72 cents. So it would just be a technical play anyways. I don't think I need to prove this point anymore that the SEC case does not matter. And a lot of people are saying, oh, XRP is bullish right now because Gary Gensler is resigning. No, it's not. It's a technical play, guys. Nothing exoteric about XRP matters at all. Period. End of story. We've proven it so many times with the first big win in the XRP case regarding XRP no longer being deemed a security. It was only able to go up to 93 cents. Not even as high as the alt season of 2021. So what does this all mean in plain English? It's that this is what's happening now. And it has everything to do with what was Bitcoin doing here to cause this. Not the SEC case. None of that fucking matters. And it's very important that you distance yourself from some of that stuff because we're going to see a lot more of it show back up. So let this volatility play out right now. Remember, yesterday was a weekend day. Today is a weekend. We still have CME opening up a little bit later today. We have had crazy moves to the upside on all of these projects. Expect to see 20 or 30% corrections along the way. You know what I'm saying? But if Bitcoin can continue this rally into next week up until Thanksgiving, like it has in past cycles, that would align with a big move for XRP to follow. So I want you to look at the very peak of the alt season. That's about $2. That's my next upside target based on kind of the energy of what happens in this initial surge up for XRP. And if we hyperextend above it, which is absolutely possible, it would make sense that we pause around phase 1 and we have a very big correction. So what that means in plain English is if we are to break phase 3, we're still likely to get a correction around phase 1 targets. Now I know that would be glorious for XRP holders to see $3 again because it hasn't been there since 2018. It's 2020. It's about to be 2025. So I get it, man. Imagine if you were in their shoes. Maybe you are in their shoes. I doubt anyone here bought the top of 2018 or end of 2017. I doubt it, but maybe you did. Who knows? Maybe you bought the top of phase 3 back here in April 2021. I'm not sure. Don't be ashamed. Don't feel negative about that. It just is what it is. You learn from your mistakes. But the reason I'm bringing that up is if you were one of those people that bought in back here, let's just say all of 2018, maybe even 2019, maybe you made it through the C19 crash and you held and you bought a little bit more at 20 cents, but you fucking didn't sell here. You're probably going to be one of those people, not you, but I mean in general, if you could put yourself in those people's shoes, you're probably going to be somebody that wants to take profits back at all-time highs, right? So there's going to be a culmination of things happening. I want you to consider this. Everything I just said mixed with the fact that FOMO is going to be crazy. If it could break $2, the FOMO is going to be nuts. So we can go straight to 3. Then it will look like this. I know it doesn't look like much, but it's a big wick and then a big flash. You see this right here? This is legitimate price action. This was off of the body, 65%, and then off of the top, a move up 120% and then corrected back into the same 3-day candle closure with a 50% correction. You're not ready for that. You're not. Emotionally, you're not. I am. But you need to train yourself to be like Yoda at this moment. So a lot of XRP, lifetime XRP people that are so diehard about this project, they're probably going to be taking profits over here just because they want to capitalize on something they've been holding since maybe 2018, 2019. All right. Be compassionate for those people. They're not wrong, by the way, because if you got in on XRP under 20 cents, what is wrong about making that much money and profit? I support all profit taking if it suits you and your investment thesis. I'm just saying that that's how you kind of have to get ready for that first big move. I don't think we'll straight into price discovery without this happening. That's really the synopsis of the whole XRP breakout. All right. So let me break it down into a couple steps for you, and then we'll finish off today's podcast with the final 4 altcoins. Phase 5 breakout, we're likely to complete around phase 3, which is slightly under $2 or about the top of the last alt season that ended in April 2021. That would make sense to be coupled with Bitcoin getting above 100K and surging into 120, 130, etc. Now, if we are to get a massive FOMO injection around that moment for Bitcoin, which I do believe we will, especially because all the people are going to start showing up on the internet, I would not be blown away to see XRP straight shot from $2 to $3. But then I think we're going to have something like this occur before going up into the first real price discovery targets, which for me are initially $7 to $8. And then I see further targets from there, but we will reassess when that time comes. Naturally, because of this structure and the structure that we're mimicking, I would be blown away if XRP cannot go into price discovery. So I'm feeling very confident this time around that it's our time. We will go into price discovery. We will see higher prices than $5 and so on. But we don't want to get too carried away here, because the moves that will happen between here and $7 to $8 can be mind melting. All right. Shit you've never seen before, especially if you're an XRP holder, because you're not used to seeing it anyways. This coin is very suppressed. It's been sideways going back since 2018. And I think there'll naturally be a lot of profit taking around prior all-time highs. Like with any project. It even happened with Bitcoin back in 2020, by the way, around Thanksgiving. We saw Bitcoin tap into all-time highs from 2018, and then it had a pretty decent correction, and then it continued after, retesting prior all-time highs, because there was profit taking set at prior all-time highs. So let's continue. We have Chain GPT. Okay, we got some decent data here. We have data going back to April 2023, so at least a year and a half. This is what I like to see. Wow, it had a crazy move up into March, which a lot of projects did very well, into that initial move for Bitcoin, into breaking new all-time highs. From the October solar eclipse, October 2023, to right before the the Great American Eclipse, this thing put on 1,300%. Amazing, crazy. So in the next cycle, I'm going to be 100% prepared for this move. I was already positioned. You could check out my buys and my sells. But what I mean is I'm going to be much more on the speculative side, I think, this time around. I'm going to go for plays that are a little bit lower market cap, and I'm going to do it intentionally, because this cycle was about reallocating. This cycle was a lot more about like having a much more mature setup in comparison to my first cycle. My first cycle, I did very well, but I always want to do better, right? I always want to progress. I want to be a little bit more calm as each cycle goes too, because I think that's another factor, like just being more Zen mode. But in general, yeah, when I time this move for the next bull run, it will be a little bit more on the speculative side, just to play the game. Play the game, don't let the game play you. This time around, I didn't go full degen mode, if you feel where I'm going with this. But I say that with caution, because we're years out from something like this. And also, we could have an absolute wipeout of altcoins due to regulatory things. Perhaps even new digital currencies, stable coins issued by the government that they're not calling CBDCs, but they're basically programmable money by your government. So anyways, I'll touch on that in future podcasts. But needless to say, since we've had this moment, we've had a correction on Chain GPT of 80%. Okay, that's a bear market. So I don't love that. That's not for me like a confidence play, but especially when it lacks data. Like, it hasn't been through the C19 crash, for instance. It hasn't really been through a cycle before. I'm just going to put this trend line for fun. I think we'll probably hold it, but I don't want to get too excited. And this warrants a couple fib pulls to try here. Oh, fuck. Yeah, no, that's not good. We already hit the 1618 on this. So, yeah. All right. I don't love that. This might go to $1.12 in this cycle, but I don't know how much more juice it'll have. It already had a pretty crazy move from this initial correction here. So it launches, and then it immediately loses. Let me show you. This thing launches. It lost 88%. Okay. Shit coin. Then it surges up into a new all-time high, then 82%. Shit coin. So why am I saying this? It's not to be disrespectful. None of you here work for Chain GPT, by the way, and if you do, you can't deny these facts. Anything that has two mid-cycles corrections of 80% is dog shit, and you're just playing it for swings. So you have to be very good at trading to have this in high percentages of your portfolio, which is why we call this venture capital. When it's venture capital, only 1% to 2% allocation, then who the fuck cares? If it goes up 1,000%, it loses 80%. You can hold this throughout the entirety of an alt season, make a ton of money on a small risk, okay? Do not risk big on this type of shit, all right? I know you're going to want to, but don't. Just don't. You have to be very, very good at trading. You would have had to be so fucking good at trading to buy an 88% dip to have then exited into just the starting point of price discovery. You would have needed to know some TA probably to execute at that level. The odds are you didn't. All right. And the odds are you weren't anticipating it to follow with another 80% correction after it already had an 80% correction in less than one fucking calendar year. All right. So this is not fun, but it's, of course, fun if you know how to trade, which just very few people do. So I'm not discouraging anyone from these plays. It's just we're starting here with the altcoins. This kind of sets the tone of this type of speculative stuff. And I need to be as real as possible with you guys, okay? Especially now more than ever. It's not like I haven't been in the past, but right now, when I get to these altcoins during the red pills, moving forward, you're going to hear me be very, very, very like the New Yorker in me is going to come out. Like I can't beat around this one. I need to be direct. It's so important right now because there's so many fucking people lying to you on the internet, saucing you up, trying to get you to invest in really, really bad stuff. Like really bad stuff. And I don't want that to happen to my people. So I might sound a little aggressive. I'm not. I'm just being me. And I think it's important that somebody speaks the truth on this stuff. So one thing to wrap this up, I do see a little bit of a parallel channel here. I'll adjust it slightly, but there could be that at play. And now what's so beautiful about what I just did is you don't need to be so good at TA, but you're going to walk away with something very powerful, which is I just looked at this for a couple moments, realized the parallel channel. I could also draw it like this. Parallel channel tool. And this intersects with late or January 2025. It also kind of pushes up into March 2025. And look at where it's at. It's right around that 1618, guys. So I don't think this is going to go much higher. It could, sure. But what we're looking at right now is maybe another 800% move. It's glorious. I do think there's another potential move to the top of this parallel channel. I just, I don't know if this is the move for me. 1 to 2% allocation, sure. Obviously, this is going to be AI. Have fun, have fun with this kind of stuff in the final moments of a bull run. Let's look at Flare, down 10% today. Had a major move along with XRP. That's to be expected. Anything tied to XRP is going to do very well when XRP breaks out. So that'll be things like Algorand, XDC, XLM, etc. There's not a great chart here. I'm going to be very, very honest. This is not a good chart. I feel like Donald Trump right now. He's a bad guy. It's a bad. I can't do a Donald Trump impression, but one day you'll get me. So this is my original flare chart. Great to see. These two trend lines are very, very powerful that I have drawn. They're horizontal rays. I had one sit at 0.28, right around a little bit above the 0.5 fib. That was done intentionally. If I was to bring it across the whole screen, you'll see why. Okay, so it had everything to do with this initial launch, dump, bounce, dump, break, up, confirmation, rejection, break lower. This is everything, the 3 cent level. All right, we got above it for a little bit, but we were just seeing resistance on a couple of these wicks to the upside. Let me extend this out too, be smarter. So this is a range within a range. We have our fib pulled from this level around 8 cents to the swing low. The reason I did this is because a couple of charts out there show that this is like a much more realistic all-time high, and it's because it launched and immediately dumped. It makes it very tough to be clear on that, but effectively 8 cents. And then I have the swing low pulled to there, and it shows you this 2 levels that I have marked off are actually right there within the golden pocket. So that's not weird at all. What does this mean in plain English? It means that if we are to cement closures above the 786, we will break into price discovery on this, likely very, very soon after. And we have the 1618 sitting around 32 cents. Fuck, that would be major move. But funny enough, it's kind of also showing me this trend line support, which broke through, led us to having a 80% correction. Yeah, 78% correction. Not good. Shitcoin material. But yeah, from where we are now, I mean, of course, it could get up to this 30 cent level if XRP can break out into price discovery. But if XRP does not, which I told you earlier, I'm confident that it will, but if it does not, then I don't see this happening for Flare. In plain English, whatever XRP does, I think this will ride the coattails of. So that means if you got some of this distributed to you for free, and you've received your Flare, great. Oh, by the way, and this is to just warn people now, if you've made it this far to the podcast, I hope you have, but there's a scammer pretending to be me who's trying to lure people in with the Flare airdrop shit, and it's crazy, but it's a thing. So if anyone tries to add you as a friend in our Discord and they have my username and my profile picture, just know that's not me, because I do not add anyone as a friend inside of our Discord, and I do not send DMs inside of our Discord either. That's a scammer. All right. I don't know how they've been able to infiltrate our Discord server. It's somebody who is clearly active and paying for a membership, and they're just cloaking themselves or staying silent in the background. And then they're feeding off of our list, which is disgusting. But that's what it is, man. I hope if that person's listening right now, you've sold your soul and you're dead, basically. Your existence is irrelevant at this point. You could try to scam the people, you could try to scam my people, but every dollar you earn is taking away millions of dollars from you on the soul level. So hope you're listening, but sorry. Anyways, finishing this up, if you were somebody who did earn these Flare tokens or, in the Spark airdrop stuff, just hold on to this shit, have fun. We're likely to break into price discovery for XRP. Therefore, you turned free into a lot. But I would not invest in this personally. I don't see this as a great investment opportunity. I think that there's other plays. And as for this move up to 30 cents, I suspect like Dogecoin will probably do the same thing, and it'll be around for likely a very long time, and it won't deal with the nonsense that a lot of other things will. Just because of where it's cemented itself in the conversation and the ecosystem of cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. It's not me saying I'm pro Doge and I'm anti Flare. I'm just letting you know where I'm at with my investment thesis. If I could collect this stuff for free, great, but I would not invest in it because this chart is not something I would feel confident investing in. That's the reason. And I don't like investing in stuff just because it'll ride the wave of another project. That's, to me, not the most sophisticated way of designing an investment thesis. Now, we're moving on to XYO. I've clearly covered this before. I'm not sure which podcast I did, but awesome, because look at the two levels I have drawn out on the downside. We're literally sandwiched. We're sandwiched between those. Massive. So yeah, this is a very technical play, which is why whenever I covered XYO last, you can just search in the search bar if you want to find, type in XYO in our Discord under my name, Waters Above, and you'll be able to find it. But anyways, long story short here is that the last time I covered it, it was probably before this moment, right? Or if it wasn't, if I covered it before this moment, I'm sorry, I meant to say after this moment. But if I covered it before this moment, then this is legendary because this is exactly how I teach when it comes to these horizontal trading ranges. I say that we want to look to prior levels where we had major pivot points. So naturally, this white line, if I draw it to the left, you'll see that at the end of our bull run, we came to this level, we moved up, got rejected at the bottom of the golden pocket, and then we broke below that level. So you want to mark it because we're likely to retest it in the future, and it's a very, very key level. And not only did we gravitate back to this level, but we got rejected and then went on to have a correction of 76%. So now that we've come back to backtest the 236, this is very good. We have high, higher, low, higher, low, but it's not the most beautiful, right? With that said, we still have quite a ways away until we get back to prior all-time highs, which means that this is in accumulation territory. Unlike Chain GPT, that's not in accumulation, in my opinion. But when I look at this chart in comparison to Chain GPT, this is much more in accumulation. Now, when I look at the last cycle too, like if we just take off of the macro structural support, fuck, right? Like you're up 2,700%. So that's something that builds confidence in me wanting to invest in something. In plain English, if I have this much chart history, although it's not the greatest performance in the prior cycle, we had an amazing cycle here where this went up 30,000%. And if I bought the last cycle and didn't have the skills to sell, I'm still up 2,000%, guys. You see the method to my madness here? This is why I feel a lot better about looking at this chart than I do with the last two, especially flare. It's disgusting compared to this chart. So I really like this. And the fact that we're below the 236 means that we're still in accumulation for this cycle. Then when I measure, we have 1,000% to the upside before even retesting all-time highs. I mean, you can't do that in any other market besides this one. But I'll be honest, I don't think we'll make it up to the 1618. Likely not able to get all the way up to there, but maybe the 4236, which is right around 33 cents. That could be in the cards. I mean, fuck, if we were to make it all the way up to 33 cents, excuse me, that'd be a 5,000% move. So I don't think we'll make it up past 50, but 30 it's possible. Price discovery is possible for something like this. I mean, we can say it's possible because it happened in the last cycle, right? But it's just crazy, right? To think that Bitcoin over here was 69,000 and now today Bitcoin's 90,000 and this thing is lower. This thing is 93% down from when Bitcoin was 70K and now Bitcoin's 90K. I'm not trying to compare that one is better than the other, but I think the data proves itself. So altcoins you really need to be fancy with. You need to know how to trade them. Otherwise, you just be holding the bag. So to summarize this, I like this chart. I like looking back at the whole chart history. I think the way that we're trading around the 236 right now is healthy after a pretty substantial surge to the upside of 500% or so. The only time I would flip my stance on this is if we started breaking lower than the bear market. But for right now, this is fine. And this is kind of the territory before we get a big move anyways, right? But we're probably going to have to wait till ETH breaks into price discovery to see this break into price discovery. And I already gave you the timing on that. Let's look at Polymesh and wrap this up. Whoa. Okay. I don't think I've ever looked at this project. Whoa, my God. What the hell am I looking at? Okay. This sucks when you have charts like this because it's like, what the fuck is this candle from hell? Just makes everything suck. Wow, this is an insane chart, dude. What the fuck? Okay, where do I even begin? This is gnarly. Okay. 2018? Oh no, this is shit. This is shit. Wow. My God. Double top into the last alt. It didn't even break into all-time highs in the last alt season after having this type of breakdown. Wow. So just for context, Bitcoin was $19,700 over here. By the way, this project is 75% down from when Bitcoin was $19,600. Today, Bitcoin's 90,000. So I wouldn't touch this with a 1,000,000-foot pole. You need to know how to sell this. You need to know how to trade this. This is not a confidence play here. This is really speculative. My God, I don't really have anything to say about this. Just bad. Just a bad project. Now I know somebody out there, maybe the people that wanted me to go over this, they're like, but Waters, it has a good technology and it has the... Okay, like if you want to invest in it because you agree with the technology, great. But if you want it as an investment and you want opinions and outlook on the as an investment opportunity, no. Standard bear market, actually. Like this thing has only moved up 500% off the bear market lows. Like Bitcoin has moved up more than this. Like if you bought the bear market of Bitcoin, I'll just put it right here, okay? Because then you got all these options. It's 300% if you don't even buy the bottom. If you buy the bottom, 450%. And in price discovery. This thing you would have had to buy the exact, sell the exact, and you're still hodling a project that's down from 2018. Can't even break into price discovery. So I don't know, maybe XRP breaking out into price discovery will make a lot of these like older projects that don't have as much of a community behind them and don't have as much going on, like not as much noise, they're likely to break into price discovery too. But I just think stuff like this is really, really too speculative, and the chart is too awful for me to feel confident at all. I'd rather get into stuff that has a more impressive past performance. Otherwise, I'm not sure what I'm betting on. That's all this is. It's a gamble at the end of the day. So yeah, I don't really have too much to say from a technical perspective on this. It's kind of like the silver chart where we could have another run up to a triple top. And by the way, triple tops are very bullish. So if we are to break concretely into price discovery on this, we might be able to run up to the 4236 on a linear fib pull, which puts us somewhere around $4, maybe. And that from here would be about... yeah, 1,000%. And still, you could get 1,000% move on so many other things with way better charts, with probably a lot better of a working technology, and part of something of worthy of conversation. So yeah, I would skip on the poly mesh and anything that looks like this, any charts that look like this. So I'm gonna wrap this one up here. These were some cool charts. I like the XYO one. That was pretty interesting. Flare chart I've known about for a while. I've done a lot of TA on. Chain GPT is interesting. I think anything in regards to AI, artificial intelligence, is gonna do very well in general. So when you're playing the speculative venture capital last minute investment moves, don't be discouraged by what I said about Chain GPT. If there was anything I said that was discouraging. Just in general, AI, I think, is the future. And there's a lot of plays that I'm not even involved in that I'll dabble in a little bit, depending on how the next couple weeks go. We'll see, But for now, I feel like my bags are packed. I'm feeling pretty confident. Now with XRP breaking out the way it has, that's been awesome to see. And we just have to be chill and let the rest of this continue. I appreciate every single one of you. Hope you have an amazing rest of your weekend in the Matrix. And I'll be catching you guys soon with some updates throughout the week. And remember, if you are interested in investing in yourself by investing in my art, I have that extended Black Friday promo code for you guys, and that will be in the description below. Appreciate you all. Much love.